Nowadays, when you hear Yu-Gi-Oh! World Championship, everybody kind of thinks of the same thing, a giant tournament filled with some of the best duelists to see who's number one. But it wasn't always like that, at least not for me. But all this time later, now that I'm older, what do I think of these games? Do I think they've gotten better with time, gotten worse? Should they be forgotten? Well, that last one I definitely don't think they should be forgotten, but these are the Yu-Gi-Oh! World Championship games. Let's get into it. The games were pretty simple back then. In fact, they're kind of similar to a lot of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Games we get nowadays. You duel some people, you get some cards, basic stuff. For all the flack I've given Legacy of the Duelist, it at least had some form of a story mode. The first ever World Championship game didn't even have dialogue for the most part. Not the greatest game ever, but it at least had a good variety of cards for what was the beginning. I even remember using Relinquished far more often than I should have. And then I was dumb enough to play Relinquished on my very first turn, and my opponent destroyed it. Yeah, I was not a great duelist back then. Next up is World Championship 2005, or as it's known, 7 Trials to Glory. I know it sounds like I'm going in order and I'm going to cover each and every single one of these games, but no, I'm sorry guys, there's not enough. But 7 Trials to Glory is still really fun. You walk around and duel people, characters from the show, main characters, side characters, you can challenge cats and dogs apparently. Really puts into perspective that episode where Jaden dueled the talking monkey.
Get it? Monkey see, monkey do?
I always remember this game and Nightmare Troubadour being the ones that my friends and I would always play together, so it does have a special place in my heart, but that being said, it wasn't fantastic. Not too much downright abysmal with 7 Trials to Glory, it just was never my favorite of the World Championship games, and sadly neither were the GX ones. The GX ones had even less story than 7 Trials to Glory, going back to what the original game did. And while I don't love the GX games in particular, I do appreciate how, as time progressed, they added features. Wi-Fi connectability, ability to use your voice, and, my personal favorite, the ability to see your monsters while they're on the field. That is huge. I don't know if we'll ever get to the point where we'll actually be able to use dual discs and see our monsters fight and attack each other, but for me as a kid, this was really special to see. So I can't completely hate the GX World Championship games. But those aren't the ones I'm really here to talk about. No. Those are the ones that were good appetizers, but I'm here to talk about the 5Ds ones. Stardust Accelerator, Reverse of Arcadia, and Over the Nexus. Stardust Accelerator takes place in the very beginning of 5Ds, but you're the protagonist. You meet Yusei and his friends. You're the one who gets amnesia. You're the one who gets locked up in the facility. Yusei every now and then will pop his head in to help you out, but it's predominantly your story. Well, you taking Yusei's story from the anime, but it still counts. You get to design how your character looks and run around the city, doing your best to help people, duel, get powerful cards, and even your own duel runner. That's right, you can customize your own motorcycle to play card games on. What a dream. But it's not just purely aesthetic. With each item you put on it, you also have to be careful. Some help with your steering, some help with speed, but there are disadvantages to everything, so it can be really hard to make the perfect motorcycle. Especially when you have to race. Yeah, you have to race people sometimes. Avoid obstacles, pick up items. It can be kind of a hassle, but I'm really glad they went through with this. Apparently there is a game called Wheelie Breakers where you exclusively race, but I haven't played too much of it. There are also all of the extra characters, all the random nobodies you can duel on the street. And yeah, they're not nearly as iconic as some of the awesome characters from the Tag Force games, but I at least do feel they had a sense of charm to them, and I really appreciated that. What I will not appreciate is one of the levels where you have to escape the facility. Yeah, once you escape, you have to find your deck and your motorcycle. And it's not just as easy as walking up and taking it. No. You have to break in. You have to break in and stealthily avoid guards. If the guards see you, they'll send you right back and you'll have to start the level over again. As a kid, I really struggled with this, and now that I'm older, I'm questioning how in the world does a Yu-Gi-Oh game, a game that focuses on card games, have a video game that focuses on stealth more than just about any other Naruto game we've gotten since, ever. Throughout the game, as you beat more duelists, you get better cards to improve your deck. And sadly, this is another flaw for me, because whenever I played, getting synchro monsters was ridiculously difficult. You start off with 3 pretty decent ones for the beginning, but it does not get easier. You have to grind for these. It wouldn't bother me so much, but to unlock new card packs, you have to beat these random duelists a handful of times. Like, you'll have to beat one duelist 5 times and another duelist 5 times, and keeping track of that really wasn't helpful. I mean, it did get better in the next couple of games where there was a sheet that you could use, but it's just not the most interesting way of finding these cards. Still, for anybody trying to get into 5Ds or just who misses it, it's really cool to see. It really does a good job of capturing the feel of 5Ds and putting you in the story. Sure, you kind of feel like a Gary Stew or a Mary Stew at times, but I still miss you being involved in the story. And, one of the last levels I have not missed. You take part in the Fortune Cup, and right before your match against Jack, you collapse, and you have to go up against Rex Godwin's 4 clones. Well, they're called your brothers. They're even called your brothers if you pick a female character, but this level sucks. You have to duel 4 of them back to back to back to back. You can't save, you can't access your side deck, which would be absolutely perfect in a situation like this, and your life points carry over. So if you beat the first 2 and you have 500 life points left, well, you're going into the third duel with 500 life points left. The worst part about this is, if you have over 20,000 life points, let's say, at the end of one duel, it'll drop you back to 10,000, maybe even 8,000. It really, really sucks, but you have to get through it, otherwise you're never going to get past the game. Sadly, once you do that, the game is easy from there. You beat Jack and the game's over. There's people to beat in the post-game, but sadly that's about it. Some dumb stuff aside, including one of those last bosses, I still really like Stardust Accelerator. Now, Reverse of Arcadia, things get a little bit different. Once again, you are the protagonist, but things are very different from last time. You're actually part of Akiza's group, the Arcadia movement. That's right, Sayer has brainwashed you, and it's pretty cool because you do get your own deck at first. It's full of psychic monsters, and I actually kind of wish I'd gotten to keep using this, but I understand for the purposes of the story why you have to go back to your original deck. The original deck that you use as part of the Enforcers. When the gang sees you again, they recognize you, but you don't. And once you finally break the brainwashing, it's revealed that you were part of the Enforcers alongside Yusei, Callan, and the others. And it's such a great plot twist, and I don't feel like it gets dragged on too long. This game takes place during the Dark Signers arc, and of course you're the one who has to do a majority of the heavy lifting. Going to the spirit world, dueling all the other Dark Signers, stopping Rex Godwin, but I don't think it's a bad thing. Sure, you feel like you do all of the heavy lifting like I said, but the game is fun. The game is a lot more balanced this time. Some of the duels are a lot more difficult, but getting better cards is all the more easier and a lot more rewarding. And in this game, you use Speed World 2 as opposed to Speed World 1 in the first game. Don't quiz me on how Speed World 2 works, I still have to look it up every now and then, but it saved me in a lot of duels. Reverse of Arcadia just seems to have a lot more polish to it, and I kind of understand in some cases that's a silly statement considering it's a card game video game, but heck, you even run more normal. In Stardust Accelerator, you run like there's something wrong with you. But that's Reverse of Arcadia. Pretty damn fun. Let's move on to our main event. World Championship 2011 over the Nexus. Good God, is this game awesome. Each of the 5Ds games seems to have you start at a different point in the series with a different story. For example, this time you're part of Crashtown alongside Callan and all the other hoodlums. You live alongside your grandfather because your parents are, they're,
dead, dead, dead. You are dead.
They're not around. And the first half of the story is you dealing with the Crashtown arc, which I've talked about before, is a pretty awesome filler arc. And the way duels start is pretty interesting in Crashtown too. You have to draw. When the duels start, you'll have to press the buttons on time, and if you do so before your opponent, you'll get to go first. I appreciate this, and while I understand in some cases while it wasn't through the whole game, it was still a pretty unique way to start things off. You help save the town from Lawton and the other henchmen, and unfortunately, this is the game where somebody else dies. That's right, like the Japanese version of the show, we see Nico and West's father, Sergio, fall to his death, and we never see him again. Okay, that's not completely true. He shows back up in the later level, and he has amnesia, and you help him out. So, happy ending, I guess. Afterwards, you and your grandfather leave Crash Town and meet up again with your old friend Toru, who used to live with you, but he wanted to move to the city to become a better turbo duelist. But before all of that takes place, you meet somebody very interesting, somebody by the name of Misaki. That's right, Toru and Misaki are game original characters. This, in my opinion, is where the game truly shines. It gives you your own story to deal with alongside doing all the usual stuff that you're used to. Toru and Misaki are very different in terms of personality. Toru's very happy and laid back, while Misaki's kind of cold. Not a bad person by any means, but definitely not somebody you want to push around. But she's also very loyal to you. She grows to care about you and Toru, and even has a moment where she saves Luna from somebody, and the two become very close. And it's shown that Misaki doesn't always know how to respond to positive affection, kind of reminding me of Sakura from Windbreaker. And they don't just use some random decks that are given to them, they have their own specific archetypes. And yeah, some of these have been used later down the line, but Toru and Misaki did them first. Toru with the Scrap deck and Misaki with the Watt deck. And I had never even heard of the Watt deck before playing this game, so safe to say she almost clocked me. Anyways, the three of you decide to form a team and join the upcoming WRGP tournament. A good chunk of the game is you guys getting ready and even helping each other out. Like I said, Misaki ends up becoming a much more open and warm person alongside you guys, and Toru learns to take things a little more seriously and not being so hot-headed. It's nice to see the effect that all three of you have on each other, and I'd like to think that if these three had ever appeared in the anime, that they would be given proper justice. The game could have easily just put you on Yusei's squad and probably take Akisa's place because that's what she's known for, but it's cool to see that they gave you your own stakes in it. You don't want to be just like Yusei and friends, you want to beat them. Sure, you respect them and your friends down the line, but it's really awesome that you get to challenge them and you guys get to go for the crown. I actually found that a lot more interesting than going up against Iliaster and Team Unicorn in the game, but those were pretty solid too. When you go up against teams in the tournament, you get to do what the anime did. 3 people on the team, and whoever loses, the person behind them gets to take their place, their cards and everything. It's too bad more games don't do this, but I could also understand in some cases why it could get a little overbearing. Heck, at least you don't have to beat all 3 people in a row like Yusei did. We also get an appearance from Bruno, who wants to teach you about Excel Synchro summoning. Sadly, this really doesn't amount to anything. It gets brought up once or twice, and nothing really changes about it. You get no Excel Synchro monsters in story mode. It's really disappointing to see that, especially considering how much I grew to love this function in the anime. But this game is still ridiculously fun. I want to go back and play it at some point, but I always remember having so much fun with it, and especially when it comes to the plot twists with Misaki, which really separated her from other characters for me. Seriously, Toru and Misaki ended up being some of my favorite characters in Yugioh, and they're not even canon. How does that even work? Reverse of Arcadia and Over the Nexus even had a function where after you beat story mode, you could go back and play it again with the same deck you had towards the end of the game. Stardust Accelerator didn't do that, but I still appreciate what they add on. I'd rather you add things as the years progress and as games get sequels rather than take them away like other franchises do. And those are the World Championship games, guys. I really appreciated going back and looking at them. And while they didn't start off fantastic, I'd rather have a set of games get better and better each time, and that's what these did. The first games were fun for what they were, but they're very similar to what we have now. Just card games, no story mode, not much to them. And the GX games are really cool for the better graphics and the actual seeing of the monsters. But the 5Ds games is where they take the cake, because they add you into the story. They make you a part of it. It makes things so much more fun, and all 3 stories weren't the same, which I really appreciated. Not only that, but it did one of the best things you could do. It had a Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds game where you could customize and ride your own motorcycle. I'm really not sure what they would have done for games like Zexal or Arc V, but I still would have liked to have seen what new features they would have added. And maybe someday these games get a comeback. But who do I know, we're probably just sticking to Duel Links and maybe some other stuff. And I love Duel Links, but I miss console games. And that's what these games were. So much fun, and I can't wait to go back and play them again. But what do you guys think of these games? Did you ever play them? Did you actually prefer the first few or the GX ones? What are some of your favorite parts of them? And out of the 5Ds ones, which were your favorite? Let me know, I'd love to talk more about them in the comments. And let me know what other anime games you guys would like me to talk about, not just Yu-Gi-Oh! Ones. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, go check out some of our other videos, be good to yourselves, be good to each other, and I'll see you next time. This has been Alex from Anime Egotists saying, seriously, I will not be upset if they put Toru and Misaki in Duel Links. Just get on that, guys. Pretty please.